Well, hello and welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit Network's podcast and YouTube channel videos. Our podcast is also known as highvibetriberadio.com and our YouTube channel is highvibetribetv.com. My name is Liz Garcia and I'm your happy host of our weekly High Vibe Tribe expert interviews and founder of the Mind, Body, Spirit Network.com. And every week, we bring you experts in the vast field of mind, body, spirit, health, and transformation from all over the world to expand your horizons and open you up to another way of thinking and being in this world. And today is no exception. Today's special guest lives in Australia, but she just happens to be in Colorado today, which is where I am too, which is kind of funny. Unfortunately, we're probably 3 or 4 hours apart from each other, but who'd have thunk? I thought I was going to speak to someone in Australia today. So I'm speaking to a Brit in Australia. So before I introduce you to our special guest, I want to wet your whistle a little bit with some questions. So, and hopefully they're super emotionally charged. Do you believe that money is neutral and that it only holds the power we give to it? What if money actually wants you to succeed, to experience vitality and joy, to thrive in your relationships, and to fulfill your soul's calling? Well, let me tell you, leading author, money consciousness leader, and coach Sarah McCrum teaches us that money simply wants for you what your soul wants for you. Yet many of us learn to avoid money because we didn't want to confront the issues and feelings we have about money, namely fear, guilt, shame, root of all evil, you know what I'm saying? So what if you could transform your relationship with money and turn the whole story you got running around? So today's special guest is Sarah McCrum. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us from Colorado, Crestone, Colorado.
And thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sarah, and then we're going to get into our interview. So Sarah is the presenter and teacher of the Shift Network's upcoming event called Discover the Generous, Loving Energy of Money, Ignite the Healing Power of Money in Every Area of Your Life. And this free online event runs now through July 10th-ish, and there'll be 2 live sessions. The first one is tomorrow on June 19th, and then next week, there'll be a live Q&A. Is that right, Sarah? Do you know
that's right.
Do you know the exact date of that one?
We're just, it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but we're not sure yet.
Okay.
So that'll be confirmed within about 24 hours.
Okay, that sounds fine. But the live intro to this event is tomorrow, but there's recording. So many of you are not going to be there live, so you can follow my link, which is going to be at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/money. You'll be able to register for that event and you'll get access to the recording and hopefully access to her live Q&A session next week is more likely than hitting the live event tomorrow. So before we start in, I want to talk about, give you some background information on Sarah. So Sarah's a leading money consciousness coach and the author of Love Money, Money Loves You. I love that. And Energy on Demand, Master Your Personal Energy and Never Burn Out. She was born and raised in the UK and is a graduate of Cambridge University. Well, you little smarty pants. That's not just for everyone there, Sarah. You got to have some, good intellect to get into that school. Am I not correct?
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Okay, well, be humble. That's okay. So Sarah is a former school teacher. She spent 10 years working for BBC Radio, traveling all over the world and interviewing children for various stories. So that's pretty interesting, Sarah. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you were interviewing kids for?
Well, I started off as a teacher and I had realized really quickly that it was the kids that I was most interested in. But I found being in school that it was much more about the teachers. Everything was geared around the teachers and we seemed to be missing something. So when I went to work for the BBC, I just I was making programs about education, and I found that I always went to interview the kids because that was what gave me the real insight into what was going on in the classroom. And I just naturally became a specialist. I think I was good at listening to them, and they talked to me, and they just opened their hearts, and they talked about things that they never told adults. And it was absolutely fascinating. And so I started to share this stuff that was coming out of kids with adult audiences. It's like, this is what you need to hear. This is what kids are actually thinking about. This is how they respond to you as adults. So it was kind of sharing the inner world of kids with their parents and other people.
I love that. Do you know if that footage is still available somewhere? I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff.
It will all be in the BBC archives. I haven't had a look at it for a long time. It's, I don't know, 20 years or something since I finished that.
I've always felt like kids, if you want to know the truth about anything, talk to kids like under age 8 or 10.
I found that.
Yeah.
And teenagers are pretty good too. If you help teenagers to really open up and relax, whoa, they are so different from our perceptions of what they are. It's quite extraordinary.
Nice. Do you have any kids, Sarah?
I don't actually, funnily enough.
Okay, neither do I. But, yeah. We have them in our lives, and that's been enough for me. All right, so let me continue with this bio, because your life changed direction at age 30 when your younger sister died, and which is so heartbreaking, Sarah. I'm sure. Was it super sudden, or how did that come about?
It was a very strange story, really. 1 week, the whole family and people from all different countries, 75 people traveled from overseas to come to her wedding. And it was on an island in the Mediterranean where she lived, one of the Maltese islands. And we were all in this boat going around the island and going to the chapel. It was beautiful. And about 3 weeks later, she was in hospital in London with a brain tumor. And it was about 21 months after that.
Wow.
It was just one of those things that dragged out for a while. And eventually, yeah.
So that helped you shift.
It did. It was a huge life change. I guess before that, I'd already burnt out when I was 28. I just used to work really hard. I didn't know how to take care of myself. And I think what that did for me more than anything was it showed me that I couldn't rely, I don't know, this maybe isn't really accurate, but it's very truthful as well. I couldn't rely on somebody else to take care of my health or my happiness. And so somewhere deep in the workings of my inner being or something, I just started to realize I need to take care of things for myself. And after, it's about 6 months after she died, I remember feeling really emotionally blocked because of all the death and all of that. Right. And I was introduced to an acupuncturist, and in 45 minutes, I became happy and relaxed and myself again. Wow. And it was like a kind of small miracle. And that kind of launched me into the exploration of Chinese metaphysics, like the whole Chinese understanding of life and health and how it works. So actually that really, in a way, my sister's death was literally the starting point for me of the rest of my life, for sure.
Right. So it says here that you discovered Chinese metaphysics and you trained with Chinese masters for 22 years, immersing yourself in Chinese understanding of energy and natural health. Now, was part of that training into the I Ching by chance?
No, not really. I mean, it's there in the background because it's in the background of everything Chinese, and it talks about the elements. And so I have a sort of fundamental understanding of the philosophy that underlies the I Ching. But we were learning, I did Qigong for 7 years, and that was like moving, standing Qigong, moving Qigong, meditation, that kind of thing. And then afterwards, I did a different kind of energy work where we really just learned about energy. So we learned how to relax, and we learned about energy in health, in relationships, in business, in every aspect of your life. So it was more like a study of life through the lens of energy. It was quite different from any other kind of training.
Did you become an energy practitioner at all, or?
Yeah, I am in 1998. I did an instructor training program. I'd already done a Qigong instructor training, and then I did it with this new teacher. And in 1998, I think, I started this little energy training school in Devon, in England, where I lived. And I had people coming to my living room, basically. I had ran 4 sessions every day, group sessions, and I had people coming to heal themselves and heal their relationships and heal whatever needed healing. So it was really, really fun.
So you kind of just was experimental maybe at first to see how it would go?
Well, I'd done a 13-week training program. Was it? No, maybe it wasn't that much. No, about a 6-week training program. And it was 13 hours a day. So it was pretty full on. And my teacher said, just copy me, just do what I do and it will work. And I remember was really interesting because it's quite hard to do that. But somebody came in after I'd been open for a couple of weeks and had been looking at a lot of empty chairs. And she'd been a dancer, and for 6 months it had taken her half an hour to get out of bed because her ankles were so stiff and so painful she could barely move. She could only hobble downstairs. She came in at 5 o'clock one afternoon, and I copied my teacher and I taught her to relax, and I talked about energy. And the next morning she walked in and she said, I got straight out of bed this morning. It was 100% healed. And she came back for another session. And it proved that my teacher was right. I just needed to copy her in those early days. So that was the experiment. Does it work? Yes, it worked. And kind of it grew from there.
Fun. So how long did you practice energy medicine or energy healing?
Well, I did that for a year there, and then I realized I needed to train some more. So my teacher then set up an academy in New Zealand. So I went to New Zealand, and, there was teaching going on and off all the time. So for the next 15 years or so, I was involved with that.
Okay.
And I set up a business and was teaching people some of the time. So there was always some element of teaching and coaching going on all the way through.
Okay. So today we're bringing Sarah on for her expertise in something different. And she's the founder of something called Consciousness of Money. So it's a program that teaches us how money is interwoven through every moment of our lives, connecting us all in an invisible web of exchange. And she guides students to explore how they think, feel, and act around money in order to discover the true beauty of engaging with a consciousness that supports our deepest creativity and well-being. So Sarah, you live in Australia now. She coaches spiritual seekers, entrepreneurs, and change leaders around the world. And I was checking out your website. It seems like your passion is to help business leaders or leaders in any capacity in general.
Yeah, especially I love to work with, and I naturally attract, I think, business leaders who want to make a difference or who are doing things differently. So sometimes they're doing regular business, they're accountants or lawyers or whatever, but they want to run their business in a different way.
Oh.
Sometimes they're real game changers. They're right out there, right on the cutting edge. So there's quite a wide spread, but the thing that connects them all together is that they are game changers at heart, what I call game changers.
Yeah.
They really recognize that we can't just keep on doing things the way we're doing them and expect to get different results, so that they're changing their hearts, changing the way they do things, and then sharing that. So those are the kinds of people who tend to resonate. And I love working with business people because they have so much reach. They have influence. They change the world in the products and services that they supply to us. So, they're very influential.
Yeah. Oh, nice. All right. So let's get to the money story. And I'd love for you to tell us, how did you get into this? Where did it come from and why are you doing it now?
Well, let's start by saying that my money history up to the point where this story really starts was quite checkered. I grew up in a family where we didn't really talk about money. I remember really clearly it was money, sex, and politics, and religion were the 4 topics you don't talk about. So really didn't talk about it. And I don't even remember things that I picked up from my parents about money. When I was about 28, I inherited some money from my grandparents and a little bit more when my sister died because I got some of her money. And I did what I was advised to do, which was to leave it in the hands of a stockbroker who probably charged lots of fees. And my money never changed very much. But then when I started to get involved with the Chinese masters and the teaching, I started to spend it. And I spent more and more and more of it until the whole lot had disappeared, literally. Much to the upset of my family, because it was supposed to, it was family money, and I think it was considered that it should be used for buying a house and being sensible. So I wasn't sensible. And I spent many years then, as I was training with my Chinese master, we didn't really deal with personal money very much. So it tended to be money was either for a business, I didn't have any money for years, basically. So I had a full-on experience of having quite a lot of money and a comfortable kind of backstop. If I didn't make enough in my business, I could draw on something. And then I had quite a few years where I had absolutely nothing. Where I had food and accommodation and nothing personal at all. So my mind, by the time all of this started, was a bit probably messed up around money. I had so many different experiences. And it started when my business that I was running in London, which was all about energy, we were bringing energy to the city of London rather grandly. Actually, it was an amazing thing we were trying to do. But during the recession, we basically lost all our amazing corporate clients who paid probably 90% of our bills, and we ended up failing rather miserably, and it was not a very nice experience.
So you had some partners or a team in that?
There was a team. Yeah, it was a big place. We were 8,500 square feet. So for an energy center to be that big,
that's huge.
It's huge. In the city of London, we're right on the edge of the heart of the city, the financial.
Rent ain't cheap.
I mean, it was something different. It was absolutely beautiful. It was all feng shuied. It was really high standard. It was an amazing place. And so there was a team of about 15 people running it. But anyway,
that's a huge financial undertaking. I used to be a restaurant owner on Nantucket, which is super high rent, seasonal. Then I was a retail owner in Back Bay of Boston, super high rent.
Yeah.
So I know your pain.
I know super high rent, and I know what it feels like to not be able to pay the bills.
Uh-huh.
I know what it's like to have to make the calls to creditors because I was the person who did it, and all of that, and that's slowly slipping out of existence and having to figure out what to do about it. So it was very painful, and it was out of that, ironically, that this whole thing grew, because shortly after it closed, I was given a little book called How to Be a Money Magnet. And it had exercises at the end of each chapter. And one of the exercises just said, what does money want to say to you?
Oh.
And it's like, that's a bit of an odd one. The other exercise is like, what did you learn from your parents about money?
Right.
What are your hidden beliefs about money, all the usual questions. And this was a different one. So I started to write in my notebook, and my pen took over.
Ooh.
And it started writing. And the first words it wrote were, I would like you to love me. And it was like, whoa.
How sweet is that?
That was not expected. That was not what I would ever have dreamt of writing. Wow. And my pen just carried on writing. And
like with no thought.
No thought. It was like toothpaste coming out of the tube. You see it the first time ever, completely fresh. The words were coming out of the end of my pen, and I was looking at them,
like reading it
and reading it as I was writing it. I did not know what it was going to say, and it just wrote completely fluently without a single crossing out for a whole page. And the last words it said were, I will love you. And it said, I'm energy, I'm light, I'm not the devil, I never have been. It said, you need to open your heart, you're too afraid.
That's really important. I am not the devil. It's true.
It really is. And it was so beautiful and so touching. It brought tears to my eyes. I was just like, I just
It's like
couldn't
a love
believe.
letter.
Yeah,
A love
yeah,
letter from life saying, woman,
yeah. Wake up.
change your mind.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Wow.
And so the next day, I thought, that was an interesting experience. I'll try again.
Oh,
And so I just put my pen to the paper and sort of said, got anything to say to me today? I want you to relax. No, it said, you all need to relax about money. You've got completely the wrong idea about me, even the wealthy amongst you.
yeah.
And
Oh,
then it started to basically say, I'm going to explain to you what I really am. And then the next day I sat down again and I wrote another message, and it just kept on coming. And it was the same experience every time. So my pen would write completely fluently for maybe somewhere between 10 and 40 minutes. There would be not a single crossing out, not a single word out of place. And these messages delivered to me, the fourth or fifth one was called A New Blueprint for Making Money. And
oh,
it writes like it's about 5 steps of how to make money with this different kind of relationship with money. And later on, there's a second blueprint, which goes into greater depth and is really good for people who are game changers or people who want to work in a purpose-led kind of business, because it talks all about how to get into that.
now
And then
did
there's
this
more
turn
and more.
into a book?
That's what turned into the book, which is called Love Money, Money Loves You.
Okay. So,
So,
did you ever read the books, Conversations with God?
of course,
I mean, it's like
yeah, same experience,
same
except the difference
experience.
is Neil asked all those questions. I mean, Neil's questions are fantastic, and the dialogue he has with
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I didn't have that dialogue. I actually just sat there. I was just
Yeah.
like a bit like a scribe, really. I
Right.
didn't have any questions. It seemed like money. It said, it's time to teach you guys more about money, because you've really, however much teaching there is, you're messing it up, basically. You don't understand what I am.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
fascinating.
So, was there more on that topic you wanted to share? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, really, yeah, that's what I turned into a book.
Okay.
Yeah, simple
Okay,
as
now I
that.
want to get the book.
Yes.
Say the name of the book again. Let's say it out loud again.
It's Love Money, Money Loves You.
Okay.
And you can get it on Amazon and
Yeah.
the obvious.
We'll be sure to share that link to
Yeah.
Amazon so you can get that book, because that's called automatic writing.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe channeled writing in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So, well, so you have a question here for me. What did you have to learn about money after you wrote the book?
That's actually quite a significant question.
Aha.
Because when I wrote the book, I kind of thought, because I'd written all this stuff down in my naivety at the time, that I should therefore know how to do it. But the real truth of the matter, this is a true story, is that when I published the book, which I could do more or less completely for free because self-publishing was already around, it was
right.
2011, I only had enough money in my bank account to buy one copy. And it wasn't like I was going to have more money the next week or the week after. I just had no money. So I bought one author's copy, my proof copy. Everything else I sold from Amazon, from the print on demand. So I never actually had to print any copies of it. And I, about a year later, I left my Chinese teacher and moved to Australia with my husband. And we had a little bit of money just to get started, just to rent a car, put a bond on a house to rent. And then it was like up to me. I had to make the money. I had to pay the rent every week and all that stuff. And I was never, ever going to go back to not being able to pay the rent, because it's a really horrible experience. And that was when I had to make the money book work. And I'll tell you a little story, because I arrived in Australia. I didn't know a single person there, none. And that's not an easy way to start a business.
No.
And I managed to get invited to a women's networking group. It was called Enlightened Goddesses, which I've always found very funny, because I'm a very ungoddess-like person. I'm kind of very grounded but anyway, it's like that was my opportunity, and I won the door prize. which was a psychic reading, and it was in a mystical kind of bookshop behind a curtain in the back of the bookshop. You know how it goes.
Yes.
So we were sitting in this little tiny room with this woman who was psychic, and part of the way through, I mentioned the book because we were in a desperate situation. We were literally about to run out of money. We were 2 weeks away from running out of money. And I mentioned the book. She said, "That's it, Sarah. That's the key. You have to go and teach about the book." I was like, "I don't have any money. I'm no proof of this book whatsoever." And I was really ashamed, actually, of myself because I thought it should have just worked by magic because I wrote it.
Right.
But I kind of gritted my teeth and said, okay. And I started teaching a bit about it and all the energy stuff. And I started working on it for myself. And so when I didn't have enough money, I followed the instructions in the book. And I got the money every single time, one way or another, to be able to handle all the problems that I faced. And we went through some difficult times where I learned how not to do it. But I always paid the rent. I always basically managed to keep up, which was a big thing in those early days. So I've gone from there to now having this business, doing something on the Shift network where you have to have something going on already. You can't just jump into a platform like that.
No.
So you have to prove yourself first. So that's what I've been doing since 2012. Okay. I have been growing my business and learning from the inside how money really works, and I'm very much still engaged in that learning. I'm not there yet. I'm here and I'm just going like this.
You're not alone, trust me. You're not alone. And there's, based on I study Dr. David Hawkins' map of consciousness. Are you familiar with this?
I'm very familiar with it. Yeah.
I'm like, he's my guy. And 85% of the planet calibrates below the level of integrity. So you've got a huge audience. We all need to step into courage and
Yeah, I worked with somebody who took David Hawkins' work a bit further, and in 2012 we calibrated. So it's shifted up. It shifted up in 2000 quite significantly, and in 2012, according to this guy, and it's just according to that, we went to about 215. So we're above the level of integrity as a collective, which is very
you mean the planet?
The planet,
yeah.
Or humanity, basically. Right. So we've made it over that first hurdle, but we actually have, and we may have gone up a bit more since then, but we have a lot of expanding to do in our consciousness.
Yeah. So my mission is to facilitate the increasing the level of consciousness to 250 on the planet, because that's
we're engaged together in the same. I mean, definitely expanding consciousness for me is absolutely key to everything that we're facing.
I figured neutral was a good place because it's a neutralizer. Like it's a very high leap to go from where we are to 250. So,
but that's doable. That's really doable.
Bump bumps.
Yes.
We're in it together, honey.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about your approach. Like, how can your approach to dealing with money help people who are struggling with the lack of money and self-worth? That's really the root, right?
Yeah.
Are not knowing how to value themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hawkins would say, if you don't have any money, it's a clear sign of how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. I would say that actually the real cause of people not having money is ignorance, is not knowing.
Right.
So yes, if you don't value yourself, it is hard to engage with money. But if you don't know how to share value with somebody else, if you don't know how to put value on something that you want to share with somebody else, if you don't know what money really is, or if you were raised with a feeling of guilt about money or disgust or hatred, or we see it all, or if you think you're selling your soul to the devil, like why would you want to go and engage with that?
Yeah.
So it becomes this thing, I have to, but I don't want to look at it. And whether people have money or not, that's a really common attitude.
Yeah.
So what I found is that the key is actually learning about it, and learning, first of all, not how does it work, how do I make money, how do I run a business, how do I do all these things, but learn about your relationship with money. What is money? So if money is really an energy that is coming from love, and I have come to see that that is the case, and it has proven itself without question in my experience to be true, and my experience with many other people, if that is the case, then we can change our whole attitude towards money, and we don't have to see money as the devil. We don't have to see money as something to feel bad or something to reject, but something that is it's like the expression of the generosity of life. It is the giving of life to us as human beings. It's this incredible energy that showers us actually with goodness and goods, let's say.
Yeah.
All the material manifestation, creativity that we're playing with as human beings. And if our position is defensive, it's like, oh, don't touch me, keep away from me, oh, I'm afraid of you, I don't know what to do about you. It's like holding it away. It's still there, but you're not really engaging with it. So it's actually very important, I think, to connect with this whole inquiry as to what is money, really? What does it mean to me if money and love are connected? How can I then change the way I act around money and how I think and feel around money, of course? And then how can I start to grow my financial and my financial life? But actually what it does is it opens up much more than that. It opens up the creativity of your life. So for me, it's opened up the kind of more joyful expression of life.
Yeah.
And the money comes along with that. If the money doesn't end up to be the goal, it ends up to be the facilitator of all of this.
Yeah. So money is just a huge topic, unfortunately. Yes. And I love that you're introducing the notion of love. It's a total game changer when you realize money is loving expression, support, inspiration, simple means of exchange to make things happen.
Yeah.
And love on the map of consciousness is not of this world for the most part. But
it is where, I mean, actually it's funny because you joked with me earlier on about being intellectual, and I hesitated around that.
Oh.
Because that, to go back to David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, so that kind of intellectual capability sits in the 400s, it's very rational level. Love is the next step up. And for many people, especially in the most developed countries, many of the business owners who I work with, they reach this kind of ceiling. They have fantastic minds, and we're incredibly well educated. In fact, in many people in many countries now are really well educated. We reach a certain place where if we want to expand, we can't do it with the mind alone anymore. It's like we've gone as far as we can with that. And the next step is into love. Now that is a totally different language from the mind.
Yeah.
So when we introduce this topic of money and love, it's pushing people who are already very strategic, very capable with their minds, and many of us are, to expand into a different kind of territory, a heart territory that is not fluffy and lightweight, but that is powerful and profound, and is actually the fuel of your true creativity. So it's the key to fulfillment. It's the key to the things that we long for in life.
And it's funny, people that haven't been introduced to Dr. Hawkins and the map of consciousness, even before when I was growing up, love was not true for me. I'm like, oh yeah, right, love, power, no. But then when you get introduced to the map of consciousness and you realize the quantum leap in power it is to let go of the mind and allow love to kind of orchestrate stuff is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched this great video from Hawkins yesterday that was super powerful. When the mind, we're all focused on content, like I'm working on this and this and this and this. And he showed this great diagram. Here's someone in the intellectual world, which, by the way, is of high consciousness, and thank God for that. Education matters. Not everyone is here to go to enlightened realms. You know,
I'm totally with you. Yes, education matters, and being intelligent really matters, because it's very powerful. I totally agree with you.
Yep, and reasonable and rational. Those are ways of being with the mind that you got to be aware of. And then the downside is the mind is that you think you know everything. which is tricky. Righteous pride and problematic. But anyway, so it was interesting. He did this diagram and he was talking about content. And when you're in the mind, you're here, you're focused, you're doing your science, we're all content. We're all focused on ourselves, what's going on in our lives, our problems, whatever. And then Hawkins introduces power, which is everything outside of that little you. Like if I put a little like halo around me, that's where power and context is, and aligning with that. And I kind of had to like, okay, I had to watch that again because I want to get it. I want to stop this and allow this, which fuels this anyway. I mean, let it out of the way and let that energy of love is the conductor. I always talking to God. I'm like, all right, I want you, lover, to be the conductor of my life. And I'm just going to, I'll be here playing my instrument and you just tell me what to do. So, all right. So let's get back. All right. So what surprised you most about money? Is there anything that surprised you most about money?
There were a couple of things that really surprised me about money, and I don't think I believed them to begin with.
And did it come from your automatic writing? Things that surprised you there? Okay, because I wanted to get some tidbits of that book.
Well, the thing that perhaps really surprised me, and I'll tell you how it surprised money as well, actually. Money talks all the time about enjoyment. And I grew up in an English-British family, and I had a pretty good childhood, but my memory of my early life was mostly being rather stiff and emotionally disconnected. So enjoyment wasn't that easy. I was quite serious and quite intense and all that kind of thing. And money was just going on and on about enjoyment. Enjoyment is the way you receive money. Being happy is the way you receive money. It's like, what? Because everyone thinks it's all about working hard. And the funny thing is, there's one point in the book where it says, money says to us, why don't you get it about enjoyment? Why don't you understand that what I'm telling you to do is enjoy? And there's something, it still catches me. I can still get a bit serious about working. To give ourselves permission to enjoy life, just totally enjoy it because we can.
Yeah. And
recognize that is better than working really hard. It doesn't mean don't work, but if you're going to work, enjoy your work.
Have fun, right?
Have fun. Even if it's horrible work, enjoy it, because actually you can. It's really possible. I think that's a very surprising thing in the context of money. And I believe that is a real game changer as well.
Yeah. All right. So since you are a Dr. Hawkins fan, I do want to mention, because I bring this up, hardworking calibrates at around 200 or so. It's just,
good.
It has some power for sure, but to have fun and be in play is like 385, 375, high frequency, having fun and playing.
Yeah.
There's way less effort in playing. The energy, you're talking about energy. The energy to manifest is huge up there relative to hardworking. It's a quantum leap, right?
Absolutely.
10 to the almost 400th power. So the energy, if you kind of use the mind, like be rational, is it rational to be hardworking when you now understand the energy of manifestation is in play and enjoyment?
Yeah.
Right.
I talk about working light, and I actually teach people how to work light.
Oh.
So we have working hard, we have working smart.
Okay.
And then we're working light.
Okay.
And that starts to bring in the energy of it, and it enables much more to be done for you. And it means that very often things you thought you had to do, you don't have to do, or you do something in half an hour instead of 5 hours.
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot. And there are many things I can do now that perhaps would take me a whole day before. And now I do it in, half an hour, literally. It's crazy how flexible time can be.
That's an interesting discovery.
Yeah.
Is there any other thing that's really like you want to share with our viewers and listeners that was like, oh my God?
About money?
Yeah.
It's funny. Yes, look, this is I think this is a really, really interesting thing to get a bit of a handle on. So the way money talks to me in the book, it talks rather like it's like this great big bureaucratic government department. This is a picture that I have.
Yeah.
So when you say something like, I want something, it's like sending a request to the money department. Okay. And that request has to be logged. So I imagine them they log it in a book.
Oh.
And if you say, I want it, and you're really happy and enjoying, they set up all their whatever, their beings, and they figure out how to deliver this to you, and that all works really well. But if you say, I really want this thing, but I can't afford it, they kind of have to put that onto the book onto a shelf. And they have shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves. I mean, this is me playing with it a bit, but this is really what it's like, of dusty books going back generations of people who've wanted things and said, I can't afford it. I've got too many bills. I'm never going to be able to afford it. I don't deserve it. And this and that. So every single thought you have that relates in any way with this energy of money and delivery and manifestation, everything is logged. And everything has to be delivered absolutely precisely according to your instructions. So if your instructions are, I want it, but I can't afford it, they have to deliver you that experience, which is wanting it and not being able to afford it. And so you go on and on. It's like, oh, I wish I could have that thing, but I can't. I don't have enough money.
Right. And here,
if you say,
I was going to say, there's someone in the files. They're like, you can't afford it. Let me give you a car crash so you can't work, so you really can't afford it.
Well, that's the tough end of things. I was going to tell you a slightly lighter one, since we're talking about humor.
I just wanted
if you keep saying something like, oh, I have too many bills, I can't pay my bills. If money comes in, and many people have this experience, they get some money suddenly come in because perhaps they're really focusing on getting more money. They get more bills at exactly the same time, because if you're constantly saying, I have too many bills, they have to keep supplying you with bills, and they don't like that, because they have more energy when we're really happy.
Yeah.
So this beautiful circulation happens that when we're really happy, and when we're not happy, it still has to work, the whole system works, but there's not so much pleasure, there's not so much enjoyment in it. So if you think of them like your delivery system, and then think about what you're asking them for, and ask them whether it's reasonable and whether they could possibly deliver it. Because sometimes people will say, oh, I just want more money. And I say, well, you want 1 cent or $1 or $100? Like, how can they deliver more money? You can find a coin on the pavement and you've got more money.
Right.
So,
okay. So I have a question for you. I was reading your website, and I want to talk about how you work with people beyond the Shift Network event, because, that's a little time frame of being able to work with you. But I noticed in your website that some of your testimonials, which are in high regard, by the way, suggested that you have kind of an intuitive way about you, that you can read somebody's energy field on the topic of money. Is that something that you've developed, or did I misread that? How do you work?
Probably. Well, I've been working with energy for 30 years.
Right.
It's 30 years since I went to my first Chinese master. When you live and breathe energy for that long, when I'm listening to people, I don't do readings. I don't really, tune into people as such, but it's just really clear to me what's going on with people. So very often I can just guide them and help them.
Oh, nice.
And it's
you're reading the energy is what you're reading.
Yeah, reading the energy. And actually, one of the things I do, I read. I think this is really useful. And it's almost the exact opposite of what most spiritual people talk about. I actually read a person's life, what's happening in their life. So for me, he comes along to me and says, oh, Sarah, I can really feel the money, it's all around me. I feel surrounded by gold, but their bank account is empty. I know that it hasn't connected up properly yet. It may be going to, And
Yeah.
it may not be going to, depends. But if it's there, it's working, and they're happy. So, having loads of money and feeling miserable is clearly not a desirable life.
And
So it's the
common.
whole, it's very common. It's not.
Yes.
So it's the whole package. If somebody says to me, this is what I'm all about, and they're living that, that's great. If they're not living it, which is usually the people who come to see me are not, I actually can read really easily from what's going on in their life and then help them to shift their energy so that their reality changes. So for me, the reality is like I was going to say passing the exam, and that's so much not the right language.
Yeah.
But it's like the reality is the proof of your connection. The life that you're living is the living expression of the sum total of who you are here. And so if you're living a life that is really poor in many ways, I personally think that it's really better to admit that and enrich your life at all levels. So then you have to engage with spirituality, but not only.
Right.
And you have to engage with money, but not only. And you have to engage with people. You can't keep yourself separate from people and have a really fulfilling life. People are part of it. And so for me, if I read somebody's life, that gives me the information that I need to help them to live a fuller life. And to me, that's where the satisfaction really comes.
Yeah.
I can relax and meditate and do all of those things and feel wonderful doing that. But if I can't bring that into my daily life, it feels so out of integrity. I don't get any joy from that.
Yeah. So do you work with people one-on-one still? Are you more of a group worker or a teacher, or what is your life like today?
I do some one-on-one. I always like to do a little bit because it's often the real cutting edge of things, because you can go so deep.
Yeah.
I run retreats with 2 other people on the consciousness of money. We're just about to run our last one in America not the last one for this year, but for this particular tour. And we run them in Australia and Europe as well.
Oh, wow.
I do online. I have online classes that I run and groups. I have a group called Game Changers Connect, which is for more game changer people who are, really doing something and bringing them together and teaching them stuff. And
so are those live courses or live workshops?
Yeah,
online?
Pretty much everything I do is live. I have a whole lot of pre-recorded kind of things you can download, simple stuff like learning how to relax and doing stuff with your energy. All of that's available. But the main work, I like to work live because the energy field and the energy is so rich doing it that way. So
you're running retreats on the consciousness of money. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
And are they like a weekend, 3 or 4 day retreats, or what is it?
It's a 3-day retreat, usually like quite small numbers, really deep.
Yeah.
It's a most unbelievable experience. And I can say that, although I run it myself, because we've done 17 of them now in the last 18 months or so. Every single one goes deeper than the previous one.
Yeah.
Every single one is absolutely different from any other.
Wow.
And the topics that come up, the dark shadows of money that we deal with, and I think more than anything, the love, the lightness that people experience, that we all experience in being in this energy field of money. Like, who would have imagined that money would be such an exquisitely beautiful energy? That's just flies my mind completely every time.
That's awesome. Wow.
It's so beautiful. And so that's what we're really sharing with people, is how to be in that way of being with money.
All right. So if you're interested, it sounds like you're going to be all over the world doing this, Sarah, so far.
Looks like that. It is like that.
Sarah's website is Sarah with an H, Sarah, McCrum, MCCRUM.com, for those of you that are listening on our podcast. And then I'll have a link below our video so you guys can see what that web address is. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff that Sarah's doing here. And as you can see, she's a lovey. And I want to talk about the Shift Network event, because that's, we're partners with the Shift Network. We at the Mind, Body, Spirit Network like to help we bring, like, so the Mind Body Spirit Network helps aspiring people like you, Sarah, people that are aspiring to become more in their practice, or, you know, to leverage what their expertise is, but they're just beginning. So we help them, but then we partner with the Shift Network so that we can bring in the experts. So you kind of like mirror what is possible for people that are just beginning in their journey as healers or writers or speakers or whatever it is that they do. So the Shift Network event, we're helping support that event, and we love to do that. It's called, hold on one second, Discover the Generous, Loving Energy of Money. Ignite the healing power of money in every area of your life. So, Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the free online event? So you can register. The live one is tomorrow, so many of you won't be able to access that, but you can still register to watch the recording. So why don't you tell us, without giving it away, what they can expect from this 1 hour webinar?
So this 1 hour webinar is also an interview. I'm being interviewed by the president and CEO of the Shift Network. And it's actually not a live interview. I'll let you into the secret. It probably comes across as live.
Okay.
But it's been recorded. But the reason I'm saying that is because I've tried really hard in your interview with me to talk about, as far as possible, about different things from what I talk about with him, so that it won't feel like a repeat. It will expand your experience around money. And he asked me some really good questions, some of them key questions, like this whole thing about money and what's happening on the planet and climate change and abuse of power around money. So some of the difficult questions he asks about, also about poverty and inequality in the distribution of money on our planet, and how could this different relationship with money resolve those kinds of things. So there's some really interesting material there.
Wow. Were you put on the spot for those? Were you
not really, because they come up in pretty much every
they do. Okay. So you were
every course we run, it's very much, it's right in the heart of my territory, so to speak.
Okay,
so
good.
I love that question.
All right.
And then one of the things that's really nice, because the Shift Network is focusing more on the soul's purpose and the link between money and our soul's purpose, which is a really nice orientation. It's a little bit new for me.
Yes.
And I'm loving it. So we're kind of moving in that direction as well.
Oh, because there's been other events that have a soul's purpose type of theme to it, which I love, because there's so many of us that are like, I don't know what my purpose is. What's my purpose?
And then when you do know what your purpose is, usually money is the most difficult aspect of that. It's like, oh no, what do I do about money? I meet so many women who really want to help people, but if it comes to asking for money, it's like, nah.
That's a problem, right?
It's a real problem. And so that's one of the things that I think is a very important topic. And that's especially for the Shift Network audience.
Yeah.
It's a really, really important topic.
Yeah. There's a lot of healer types, and I deal with them, and they all have money issues.
I know.
So this will be
you are so right.
help for them. So based on the event page, I'm just going to read a few things that you're going to, during this 1 hour webinar that we're talking about here, you're going to discover precise and practical methods to clear unhealthy imprints in your energy field. We all got them.
Yeah.
And expand your vibrational capacity and receive the loving energy of money, right? You got to open up the receiver.
Yes, that's so important. Open up the receiver.
Yeah. Yes. This is the hand mudra for receiving right here, you guys. That's the hand mudra for receiving, and you put it on your solar plexus or near your heart, whatever. I practice with that one often. And this is the open the heart receiver hand mudra for any of you guys.
Oh, nice.
Do you work with hand mudras at all?
No, I don't. I don't.
It's kind of interesting, the energy of mudras. You might like it. All right. So you can register for this event and the recording at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/money. And beyond that, I'm going to have this interview on our Mind Body Spirit Network. If you want to, I'll have a bunch of links to connect to Sarah, and we'll probably be doing some other things together. So will share her book, some of her classes, her retreats, whatever. We'll have a little schedule on this interview page so that you can connect with Sarah there. So that'll be the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com/interview-Sarah-McCrum. And that's Crum with an M, no B.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And her website is hername.com. And I'll have the Sarah with an H, McCrum, MCCRUM.com. You can reach her there as well. So I want to thank you so much, Sarah, for coming today and talking about this dirty, filthy, rotten, evil topic. Not shameful, guilty, and whatever about.
Well, thank you for making me feel so bad about it.
I know.
It's been a really awful experience.
We're going to step into love and joy on the money topic because, life, I got to read your book.
Yeah, honestly, I think you will really enjoy it. You're so ready. You're so like, it's just, it makes so many things make sense that have not quite made sense before. Yeah. It allows us to settle into ourselves and be ourselves. That's the beautiful thing about it.
So I've had numerous occasions of higher consciousness, experiencing higher consciousness for prolonged periods of time. And when I came across Neil Donald Walsh, I had this spiritual awakening that was intense and overwhelming, and I crashed. It was a horrific crash. And that book came to me out of nowhere. I'd never heard of it. I just knew I had to go find it. So I went and got it. And as I'm reading that book, I'm aware of who is speaking to me. Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same thing with yours. At another level, it's life talking to you, answering your prayers. It's like, I'm talking to you. And just that book, the writing was totally speaking to you, Sarah.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind about that. I look back at it now, and at the beginning, even I didn't understand so much of it. I look at it, it's like, oh my goodness. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And the more I recognize that, the more true I see that it is. Yeah, it was an extraordinary experience, and it still is. Yeah. Being able to talk about money in this kind of way.
Yes, we're going to have fun with money. Get over the junk around money.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, listeners and viewers today. This highvibetriberadio.com is the web address for our podcast. highvibetribetv.com is the URL for our YouTube channel. So if you like what we're doing here, please go and subscribe and comment and share your whatever with us. Comments, suggestions. Let us know if you're enjoying these interviews or not, or if you have questions for Sarah, you're welcome to ask in the comments, and I'll let her know that someone's asking a question. So this is all sponsored by the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com, and this is where I support aspiring and actualized transformational healers, luminaries, visionary thought leaders, speakers, authors, teachers. I help them to get found and speak their truth and help others, live their life's purpose, their soul's purpose through marketing. So that's the Mind Body Spirit Network is an online directory to find people like Sarah and to find online courses like ones that Sarah teaches and others. So it's an alternative and unusual type of connection for all of you, and I invite you to visit us there. And you'll also want to check out I call our online store our Lighthouse store, where we have online courses. I call it the Lighthouse Library of Online Courses, the Lighthouse Library of member curated books, and then some of our members have services that we offer there as well. And that's all at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com. Tomorrow, I'm interviewing Anita Moorjani. Have you heard that name?
Oh, totally. I've listened to her audiobooks. We've talked about her. I recommend her to everybody who has cancer, especially anyone who needs to learn how to love themselves. She's fantastic.
So Dying to Be Me. She's the author of Dying to Be Me. She had a near-death experience, or that's what you call it. Yeah. So we're interviewing her tomorrow. I'm excited because
that's a big thing, because she's very difficult to get to interview.
Oh, nice. Well, yay. Well, we have some things in common. I think life is bringing us together to kind of share our mutual insights and wisdom into higher states of consciousness.
Brilliant.
Sarah, enjoy Colorado. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, listeners and viewers. We're signing out.
And thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about it, to share the message more, and for embracing it so enthusiastically.
Oh,
That's one.
Yeah, well, I got my issues, as we all do. Thank you, Sarah, and goodbye, everybody. We'll see you again next week. HighVibeTribeRadio.com.